What is going on, everybody? Lukey Boy here. In today's video, I'm going to be actually talking about something interesting that I've been looking at, related to NFTs, of course, but slightly away from the traditional sort of buying and selling of an NFT. You know, this could be an NFT, obviously real simple. I know I talk about the crypto pots a lot because I'm going in depth in it, and it's just another thing I've looked at and seen, but there's potential opportunities to be made, and it's very possible that there are other projects that have a similar structure or style where this could be applicable to them as well. But I'm obviously looking at opportunities within the space, not just in NFTs, but around the NFT stuff, because, as you may know, many collections have tokens that are used within like the game or the ecosystem, and it's interesting to see what we can do with them potentially to create an opportunity to make some money. Definitely when the overall crypto NFT market is kind of chilling out. I actually looked at June OpenSea yesterday, and it looks like the date has changed a little bit. I move my little face. It looks like they've just made it a little bit. It is actually the same. They just changed the structure to make it look. Yesterday's actually pretty, small pump. It's quite nice. But again, around that previous low, is where I kind of expected to go. It could go anywhere, of course. Like in 2 weeks, anything can happen, but it's chilled off a lot since Jan and Feb, which is fine. But obviously there's less opportunity potentially in the market. There's always opportunity, but overall, most things are pulling back in price. That's where you can start to utilize your time in other areas to focus and look into the future and see, what you could do maybe in the next bear market, for example. So what I've been looking at is, obviously I've talked about the critters a lot, right? And I've been looking at the blocks. And the only reason I'm looking to do this is because I want to do a little test as well, get a feel for it. But I also want to see, is there money to be made that I could then filter back into NFTs later, or later as in maybe not that far into the future, but, So what I've been actually looking at is the block charts. So if we look here, I've got blocks up, which is literally these blocks that you accumulate when you play the game. That's in my in-game wallet, and this is just in my Ethereum balance. And this is the chart for it. Now, what I notice is, ignore this pump. If you look at the daily, it's probably a lot easier. Ignore that because that was before it launched. You can see there's no volume. So you might be like, well, it's crashed from this price down to here. That's not true. And what I'm looking at here is a couple of things. I'm looking at these lines, and this yellow line, these two blue lines. What I notice is that the price of these blocks is fluctuating 130, 120%. Each one of these is moving multiple 80%. Some of them aren't obviously moving as much, like this one here is only 17, but there's definitely opportunity when something moves 17%. You've got $1,000. Well, obviously if it goes in the wrong direction, of course it's going to go down $170, but if it goes up and you're just taking it conservatively, you could have now $1,290, yeah? So, even if you're just not taking a full, wicks, you're not literally waiting, you're not being greedy, there's definitely opportunity we've made, because obviously you've got fees and transferring and moving money around in your ecosystem, so you've got to be aware of that. But actually it may even get to a point where I want to sell soon, so maybe we can do it in this video. But what I'm doing is I'm literally just trying to maybe we can do it now. So let's have a look. So in my balance, I want to buy blocks, so I want to swap blocks. Now this is more an experiment because 1674.84 is this much, and I do want to wait just for a minute for it to update properly, because not to say it won't, but I've actually written down what I paid for this amount. So if I just put 1674 into ETH, I'll get that, and let's have a look here. Let's have a look. So the fees at the moment, I'm doing tests is what I'm doing, because I know right now with the amount of blocks I have, the fees are probably break even or I'm losing a bit of money. But I'm just doing some tests at the beginning before I stop, obviously before I look to potentially put more money into blocks and then do the same process. And I'll expand on that in a second. I just wanted to make sure that this pending transaction is going through. But you can see here, in the last 4 hours, these blocks have pumped 13%. Now I actually sold into blocks. I sold into blocks somewhere around, I don't know, this line, I don't exactly know what you can actually look at in a sec. Let's look at this pending transaction. Just want to go through. It's annoying that I can't see my history. Maybe there's a section that we can see history. It used to show up down here in recent transactions, but I've written it down. So initially I started with 1,388 blocks. Well, as you can see here, I have 1,674 blocks. Yeah. And the amount of ETH that I actually had that was worth was 0.05233. So what we can actually do here is go to ETH conversion. That's not how you spell it. Doesn't really matter what exchange, and we want to just type in 0.05233. Okay, $146. Now, if you can see here, back onto here. I can't take that. Let's just jump onto here and we can grab the value. It's successful, awesome, and it cost me $16. So that's obviously what you want to be aware of. You want to be aware of the fees. Is it worth it? Because it might look like your value's going up, but you're actually burning through some ETH on the back end related to it. And you can see here, I basically did it and got $177 worth of ETH. Yeah, this amount, and you can see on here the difference. So there's going to be 2 transactions that actually is included in this. Now that I've returned my value into ETH, yeah, I obviously will go back on here and my blocks will decrease. See? Perfect. I know it's just very simple, but I'm just trying to kind of get around it now. So I'm up about $30, which is just nothing, but of course I'm using very small amount of blocks. Blocks are less than $1. Right as of this very moment, you can actually go and find the value of blocks. Here we go. So if I refresh this is also a chart I'm going to be using. It's 10 cents. So it's like very little. But you can see it just pumped, yeah? So this is obviously this is a bit of a crappy chart. It doesn't really have much on it, but you get a feel for the smaller time frames, and it's, you can get this here in, a couple of hours is up 30% and down and up. So, obviously I like to look at this chart, but I'm basically trying to sell when it hits here, and all I'm doing is setting on alert, and it literally vibrates on my phone to say, like, I don't know if you can see this. It's like one of these options down. It's like this one here, I think. It just says alert on blocks, and basically it's just like vibrates and just tells me when it hits that target. And then I'll look to sell, and then I want to be buying back on these blue lines. The reason I've chosen these blue lines, these might change over time. It's like I could be conservative and go, okay, I'm going to buy some here. I'm going to use half. I'm going to buy half of that ETH that I've got from that transaction, which is, so I'm going to use 0.0315 or something to buy at this and this. So I'm going to wait for that, and then obviously my goal is for this, because if you look at the wicks, you could maybe be a little bit more conservative and bring it up, but it hits that once, twice, 3 times. This is on 4 hour. So if you look at a daily, which is how many times a day does it do? Well, it's hit it. It's gone into down below that once today already. Here to it hits it in here. It goes up to that point and then down within that same day. It does it here. Here it doesn't, which is fine because you don't, And it also does it down here for a handful of days. Now, expanding further, you might. Oh, there we go. So it's dipped down. You can just see how quick that dipped down. And so, like, in theory, if I actually went to buy it now, let's have a look. That's just in theory, what would me buying blocks now look like? Swap blocks. I want ETH to blocks, and I want what was the amount? 0.0. Was it like something like this? 0.065 or 0.4? I could just double check that quickly. 0.06. Okay, 334. 334. Okay, look at the amount of blocks there. 1,851 blocks. Okay, how many blocks did I just sell? 1,674 blocks. So I could literally just do that swap now. The only issue is if I pay a fee now to swap back to blocks. Let's say I actually looked at my transactions and it was $10 before. Did I get rid of it? Yeah, I paid 16 at one bit, and then I paid. No, we haven't. And I paid 10. So no, I lie. I've written it down here. This must be from my previous transaction. So I paid $24.16 to convert blocks into Ethereum. It's just because it's a little bit complicated. So what we can do is we can actually go into that transaction and see the fees of that previous. So this one's cheaper. Yeah, so I've just paid $16. So I can obviously go and build up a table now, a record. In the previous, the very first time I did it, I paid $26. So, obviously it's going to vary. And then when I had my ETH, like I do now, I had to pay $10 to convert it into blocks. So in total, that was like $36. So you might go, oh, okay, well, there's no money to be made because we did if you're looking $36 and you're not converting enough blocks, because there should be economies of scale with this as well. Obviously, the more blocks that you're converting between, the price of the gas that you'll pay will not double and triple as you expand. It will probably increase a tiny bit, maybe, potentially, but I don't see that happening. Most of the time, the gas fees, just like with NFTs, if you're trading something for 3 ETH, then the gas fee doesn't quadruple, 5x, 10x, because the value of that NFT is higher. I don't 100% know the details behind the actual tokens and if there is some sort of expansion, but I don't believe there would be, because it's using the same principles of a smart contract moving assets. But that's something I will look into more, because first I want to test my hypothesis, and then I want to expand on that. So luckily we got a bit of a trade in there just so you can see what I'm even talking about. And of course I've got some more ETH balance. So really what I could do is, once I'm comfortable with this, I could look to maybe buy 0.3 ETH down here so that I've got more blocks to work with. And then obviously the fees, the profits, or maybe not the profits physically, but the extra tokens or the extra ETH will obviously offset the costs of the fees. Yeah, that's the goal. I'm more just playing around with it for now. And then you would say, well, what if something happens to the price? What if you trade out and then the price goes up like this? Well, that's fine, and you don't worry about it anymore, because you've made some profits along the way and you've got your ETH, so you can crack on with some other stuff. Learn about other things. If it comes back down, you can see there are this is pretty much the first sort of crazy pump. But let's say that I went to sleep, and I got blocks, so it's down here, and it pops up. Well, overnight, because that's literally all in one day, it went up some crazy amount. Obviously I'm not expecting that, and that will happen from time to time. I'll wake up and it will be up 75% more than what I would want, but I'm happy to be taking the margins in between as long as I can cover my fees. So I'm not looking to be greedy, is what I'm trying to do. And you can see here, it could come higher, but that's not a problem. I'm not going to buy blocks, and I'm going to wait. So as soon as I might as well put an alert down somewhere around in the middle, add alert, so that I get a little vibration on my phone. If I'm asleep, I'm asleep. Doesn't matter. It happens, it moves quite a lot all the time, that I'm not worried about missing one opportunity. And my phone doesn't even tell me at night, because it's on like that night mode or whatever. So, and then you might say, well, what if the price of blocks goes down? So for example, I buy here, and actually over time it just drops, which is completely possible. Yeah. Well, I don't mind for that reason, because one, I'm playing and using the game, and I want to hold blocks as well longer term. But also, you could use blocks to buy land in the game. Now, this is moving into a little bit more of further thought. But each block at the moment is 200. Well, each Critter's plot on the marketplace of OpenSea is 265. That's the cheapest I found. It's just water. If you actually go to the Critter's website, you can still buy land for 2,129 blocks, and this block price goes up over time. So and it's actually cheaper to buy with this at the moment. Obviously, if it has a pump, it's not. So it works two ways. The Critter's plots will pump in price, because if you look, there's 18,900 minted and there's 22,500 available. So once that's complete, the use of blocks will reduce, because people will not be trying to get blocks to buy land. So and then expanding from that, when blocks is low or lower, people want to be basically doing a swap they want to be swapping on like Sushi Swap or something, ETH to blocks, so that they can go and buy land like this. So a lot of these are taken, but you can find land like over here, and it says claim, and you can basically just claim that, pay a little bit of gas, and buy it. And it's actually cheaper than if you buy it on OpenSea. And so the use case of blocks at the moment is high until all of these are minted. Then I'll have to see and assess, because I'm not sure. And so it's really interesting to see that these pumps in blocks is probably because someone potentially, obviously you never know the reason, is converting money into blocks because they want to mint, or they want blocks because they want to hold them long term, whatever the reason is. But there's more reasons to hold blocks right now, because you can get the land. And then, for example, if it does pump like this, and actually the cost to go onto the website here and buy land is going to be not worth it, because you can actually get it now cheaper on OpenSea. Yeah. And then what happens with that is that the Critters plots pump, because now there's less demand for blocks, because people are like, well, I can't. It's the next 30 or 40% more expensive now, because obviously it goes up. Well, it goes up here, and now it's like 60 cents per block. Well, 0.6 times 2,100 to get land is $1,260 for land. Well, these lands are 279. So they're obviously way cheaper. So people are going to shift their focus onto OpenSea, and then what happens? You get crazy pumps like this. So this actually went to a floor of like 0.36-ish, and then pull back a little bit within the same day. That's why the average price is 0.28. But you can then play that side of the coin. Yeah? You can go, okay, well, I've accumulated lands by mixing all of this up, buying some with, when it's cheaper. Maybe you bought some on OpenSea at a cheaper price. Maybe you've got blocks as well, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then this pumps, and then you could go ahead and sell some lands. And then obviously what usually will happen with something like this is it will chill back off to exactly the same point, which is exactly what it's done. Pumped up, people jumped here, blah, 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 blah. People didn't mint it here. And then obviously Christmas plots pull back. People were then selling up here, because they, people that have blocks as well, you're getting 300%. If I got 1,000, obviously I know it's really obvious how much that would go up. You're going to plus 320%. You've now got $4,200. So you've got to take profits, because people that are playing the game are earning blocks, and so people are going to be like, Jesus, it's gone up so much. Like I'm going to sell now because I'm in decent profit, and I was just saving these for a rainy day kind of thing. And then what happens is as people sell, boom, yeah. It kind of pulls back to its original, and now that it's fallen back to its kind of what it was before, people don't need to sell anymore because they're like, oh, okay, it's back to what it was. Why would I keep selling? It's now at a real realized price or a market price or almost like a floor price on NFTs. That's what people are used to having it at around, and people are taking profits. So there's no more profits to be made because most people will probably be around here. Anywhere between sort of here and here, people would have bought. Well, they're not going to sell at a loss, so it's not really going to push down any further. Of course, long term, I have no idea what the price will do. It's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. And then it comes back down here. And really, like for me, if I have blocks at this time, and I wake up and this is one day, so somewhere along this, I would be awake. It might be up here, and I might take profits there, and then I can buy back in at 65% cheaper. And I'm just rotating that. Obviously, that would take a longer time. That would take many days for this to fall. And in theory, I could buy back down here if I really wanted to. But we're keeping it pretty simple strategy here. And then I'm waiting for these wicks. If I'm trying to be a bit more cautious, I'll wait for that bottom one. You could even bring it down here because there's a couple of wicks here. 1, 2. Yeah, there's not as many on that lower one. So I kind of look to take it in the middle or whatever. Obviously sell it. Yes, it could pop up, but I'm not worried about that right now. I'm more just getting the understanding written down and sort of strategized so that I can then play it a little bit more tactically later. And all I want to do is wait for this now to come back down somewhere around here, essentially buy, and then look to do it again and again. And at some point, obviously the fees will be worth it. Now, we could potentially, if there's about $36, let's actually see if we're around that figure now. $36 for that whole swap. So what I'm looking at now is the difference between this amount of ETH. I know we kind of touched it a second ago, and the previous 0.06. So that's $146. Yeah, and we now want to see what 0.06 minus 107. So $31 is the difference there. So really, I'm down $5 between those two transactions. Yeah, something like that. And so there's not really anything amazing happening there. Yeah, I'm getting blocks, but I'm paying fees, which is slowly reducing my overall ETH balance. Yeah, and so that's currently what's happening. So, but what I'm learning for a small cost is getting confident and understanding the process and understanding how it links to the ecosystem of lands, so that if X scenario happens, maybe I go and sell. I've got 10 lands now, I think. Let's say it pops up to 0.35. I go ahead and sell 2. So I've also made profit on those because I understand what's going on. As soon as I see the token pump, or as it pumps, I understand that people are probably going to shift away from buying lands on the website. Therefore, I should expect Christmas lands to pop up. I could even buy some if I wanted to, really at the floor before that kind of really has an impact, and then expect it to kind of, it happened pretty quickly, to be fair. Although there was like a 1-day noticeable difference there on the Feb 21st. This would be interesting. Yeah, it happened here. See, it's exactly correlated because this day here is the 22nd of Feb. This day here, 22nd of Feb. Oh, shock horror. Okay, so this is obviously, that means it's forcing people to stop buying from here and buy on here. And also, as a side note, if you have lands and you're playing in the game, you're obviously earning tokens. Yeah, you're earning blocks. So you can also then earn blocks and sell those blocks. So the more that you have in the game, the more that you can earn, so on. And so, you know, there's really interesting kind of connections here between them all that I'm looking to get a bit more stuck into because, you know, with the NFT market itself, overall, it's a little bit slow. And I bought a couple of bits 2 days ago or something at a decent price, but I'm still kind of just looking around and, you know, trying to strategize. But also I want to get into stuff like this more because it's exciting. There's opportunity, you know, there's not always opportunity in abundance everywhere, and you've got to look at other options. And again, like, you know, a lot of what traders do, more experienced traders within the NFT space, they go ahead and obviously when they take profits from NFTs and they move it into something like Ethereum. Yeah. So when you have, you know, the kind of blow-offs or slow, you know, increases, NFTs chill out. People take profits, flip it into NFTs that are currently cheap because there's a bit of a bear market. So and then they make profits on NFTs while their Ethereum is actually going down, but it doesn't matter because they're making more profits from the NFTs. So overall they're up, even though actually if they just held ETH, they'd be down. And then when the NFT market chills off, or before it chills off, they sell, they get the profits. They either hold in ETH or they convert to USDT, which is a stable coin. Basically, it's just like a digital dollar. And then they either buy more ETH here and then mix that with buying cheap NFTs because we're currently in a bit of a bear market. And then obviously when things kind of like this are looking a little bit more structured and cumulative, then people will shift their focus either into ETH. So this could go up, this could have another month of nice uptrend, chill off for a bit. Then we could see NFTs pump, and they're just cycling through all these different options so that there's not one time that they're necessarily just sat there just like twiddling their thumbs. Not that I'm like an expert in it, but I'm just trying to kind of piece things together over time to try to give myself a better overall understanding of the markets, how things interact with each other, opportunities. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've kind of covered everything. But you can see here, you know, this is quite nice to see the price in dollars. But when was this? Yesterday it was at 81 cents, and now it's at 10 cents, or nearly 11. And that's all I'm doing. And actually something interesting to also look at is that on here, this is actually blocks against ETH. So it's not blocks against dollar. So actually we're trading against ETH. So because we're using ETH ultimately. Yes, the dollar value might go up, but what's then the price of ETH compared to the dollar? So it could be sort of giving you a misguided judgment call if you were looking at it against the dollar. Because if ETH went massively down, in this instance, you could actually profit from that by getting more ETH, which is kind of what we want for the NFT space. But if you look at the dollars, then obviously you'd look at the dollar value. So I'm mostly looking at the ETH value because I want more ETH. That is my goal. Or a bit of both, like blocks, you know, but I want that all to accumulate. I want to gain more of that rather than worrying too much about the actual value. But obviously you want to make sure that the fees that you're paying in value are offset against the gains that you're gaining. So enough of me talking craziness to some of you may think that. I'm going to leave the video there. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all on the next one.